All right, now to the president's health care law. And it looks like the staffers, or this is the staffers of the folks who wrote it, increasingly they're fearing it. More than 90% say that they are worried about possible changes to their own health benefits. 82% worried about their ability to access local health care providers. Reaction now from House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer. Congressman, very good to have you back with us.
Good to be with you, Neil.
This concern among the troops, sir, is it legit? Are you worried? Does it tell you something? What?
Well, I think clearly there's going to be concern on any new program of this size. However, we see increasingly many-fold increases in applications, many-fold increase in people who are signing up. We see young people having increased their numbers. So the answer is, I think that this program is starting to get momentum and I think credibility, and I think it's going to grow in acceptance, not diminish. But there's no doubt that the rollout was rough.
Okay. Nancy Pelosi sort of winced when a reporter called this Obamacare. What do you call it?
Well, I call it the Affordable Care Act, but I call it Obamacare a lot as well. But the reason she winced, and the reason that I try not to use it if I think of it, because so many people, we've called it Obamacare for so long, is because that phrase was coined not as a supportive phrase, but as a derogatory phrase to say this was Obama's plan to socialize America or to make it a more socialistic environment. In point of fact, it's a private sector
yeah, but
marketplace.
The president seemed to like it, and he always seemed to like it. I guess I would like it too if I call it Cavuto care. I call it,
Well, let me tell you, I think he does, except for what it implies.
Yeah.
And it is obviously used by many as a derogatory term, not as a either an expression of support or simply an explanatory term. But let me say what Obama says. He says, Republicans are going to call Obamacare right up until the time it works.
Well, we're waiting for that, and hope springs eternal, as you know, Congressman, but there are a lot of fears among some of your colleagues, particularly the more vulnerable Democratic ones, that this is going to cost them, whatever you want to call it, the number of Americans who've had problems signing up, the number of Americans who've seen their policies canceled or their premiums increased is a lot more than they envisioned, and that even those who supported this early on are ruining the day. How bad is this? How worried are you?
Look, I think it's going to work, and I think if it works over the next 6 months, I don't think we're going to be worried about it.
When you say works over the next 6 months, what's going to happen?
People are going to see that what they're getting is good, their alternatives are better, that their pre-existing conditions don't preclude them. Seniors are getting better health care dollars for their prescription drugs, so that the positives built in here. And if health care costs keep being contained, at some point in time, we're going to have to give credit to the Affordable Care Act, not just to a recession.
But what happens when, you mentioned 6 months out, sir, and then you've got all of a sudden, the employer mandate kicking in soon thereafter, and then a lot of these companies might decide on their own, well, these provisions are so tough, we're going to have to let go or increase the premiums of maybe millions of folks. And so, like, the second storm is coming. What do you say? Well,
again, if it's perceived as a success, as I think it's going to be by the late spring or early summer, then I think we're fine. Very frankly, if it's not perceived as that, will it cause problems? Yes, it will.
But did you see any of this coming, Congressman? That when this is being debated, that you could keep your doctor, you want your doctor, you can keep your plan, that maybe some of your staff, you have a pretty good staff, you're a pretty smart guy, were crunching the numbers and said, wait a minute, that's not possible. That can't be done.
Let me tell you something. First of all, if you like it, you keep it. That statement was true as we were considering the bill, and in fact, the provision in the bill says if you had your insurance before the bill was enacted, you could keep it, notwithstanding what the language of the bill required. The problem was, as I said, none of us were very precise, and we should have made it clear, if you have it now, later on, we have higher requirements, more coverage. We want to make sure that every
but you weren't clear there. I mean, that's very, wait, I don't know if you're a lawyer or not, but I mean, there's no legalese way to, there's no legalese way to say that. If you had a policy in good standing before this law took effect, the understanding was in the part of America you could keep it when, in fact, whatever the requirements that came after that virtually nullified it for millions of folks, right?
No. Let's go through what I just said. We don't want to take a lot of time. I said if you had a policy the day before the health care bill was signed, the health care bill said you could keep it, and you could keep it. That did not mean that we were going to force the insurance companies to keep offering it. Most of these people in the private sector, not through their employer, had insurance, as you well know, kept it less than 2 years for the most part, because they kept changing policies and the insurance companies kept changing policies and prices on them. One of the problems, frankly, Neil, with the Affordable Care Act is we've adopted a bill. Now, every piece of anger that was directed at insurance companies before the Affordable Care Act, the insurance companies now say, and people presume, oh, it's because of the Affordable Care Act. A lot of people would have lost their insurance, notwithstanding the Affordable Care Act.
No, you're quite right. The system was pretty roughed up to begin with. But I will say this, and instead, you and I talked while this was being debated when I was in Washington. I had the pleasure of being with you guys through this whole debate. One of the things that came up again is that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And you want to cover 30 million more Americans, and you want to cover pre-existing conditions, and you want to keep your kid in your policy into their until the 26 whatever. All that might be well and good, as you said, removing lifetime caps.
Right.
All good. But to think that you wouldn't pay more for that, or that a lot of Americans wouldn't pay a lot more for that, or at the very least be disrupted by that, was a little hood and winking going on, don't you think?
Well, you know, the theory was, and this is a correct theory, the greater number you have in the risk pool, the less cost there is to each and every person. Obviously, if you had drivers that were all drivers who had a wreck every year, your insurance costs would be sky high. One of the reasons that automobile insurance is affordable for the most part for all of us is because not very many of us have accidents every week or every month. Therefore, we spread the risk over a great number of people. That was the theory, Neil. Clearly,
and something went wrong. Something went wrong, right?
Well, I think in the short term, there are dislocations that occur in change, and they're uncomfortable, and people are angry. I understand that, and of course, all of us are angry about the rollout because the rollout just fed in to all the bad fears that people had.
All right, Steny Hoyer, we'll see how it goes. Maybe, like you say, with the next 6 months, it's all a memory. We do the under and over on that. Steny Hoyer, thank you very, very much.